create. It's all about art. Hello everyone and welcome to the show. Art and creativity help us to feel uplifted and to express the ideas and instill the emotions that we have. We can do this in many different ways, and one is the written word. So tell me, have you ever pondered about publishing a book? And maybe you were stopped by a little assumption that you need an ME in creative writing. Or maybe you have a message of hope and inspiration that you want to share with everyone, but you are procrastinating taking action. Join us today as I interview Clive Twain, who went from a grade C in English and a non-writing job to writing and publishing an inspiring book in a few months. We will ask Clive about his process of writing the book, chiseling away from mountains of research all those unnecessary bits, revealing the ultimate sculpture, a beautiful 3D life model. Now, during the show, Clive will also give us 3 great tips for those buddy readers who are out there looking to connect with a reading audience that want to get started now. So, Clive, welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks, Franz. Thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
It is great to have you. So, have you ever thought when you were a young boy that one day you would be writing a book?
My goodness. No, I did not. I was definitely not your archetypal writer when I was young. I didn't really read a lot of books either. My sister was into reading. She would read perhaps a few too many Stephen King novels, perhaps. But for me, I only ever read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And that was the only book outside the school curriculum that I actually thoroughly enjoyed. So I wasn't a bookworm. As you say, I got a grade C in English. So I wasn't an inspiration to anybody at school. And I thought it was funny because I didn't like reading that much. So whenever you'd have to do a book review at school, I'd try and find a movie that had a book attached to it. And I would do a review of the movie, but just pretend it was the book. So, no, I definitely wasn't thinking that I'd be writing any books. I was into athletics, gymnastics, army cadets, and I wasn't even religious back then. So the answer is no, I didn't.
Well, that's very interesting. And sorry for reminding everyone about your grade C, but you told me about it, so I had to use it, right? It's to give hope to those who think they're not very good with English. So, do I get it that... all right, let's put it this way. Did you ever think you were particularly good at writing when you went to school, let's say up to high school?
Well, there was a small period of time of about 2 weeks that I thought I was good. Apart from that, no, because I wrote a short story being somewhat inspired by Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide and also just enjoying space and stuff. I wrote a short story about the whole world or the universe collapsing into a big black hole. And it was quite comical, and I was really pleased with it. I presented it to the teacher after 2 weeks, and they were just not inspired. I was like, come on, this is amazing, but they didn't think the same. So that was my very small window into enjoying writing. But after that, no, it wasn't a dream, and it's something I gave up on very quickly. So, yeah, unfortunately, no, I didn't dream big back then.
Thank you. That is great to know. So... that was not really the beginning you would have been expecting. So what is the change of mindset after about 30 years?
Oh, wow. 30 years, yeah, don't remind me. Yeah, it was frustration that changed my mindset. Frustration about a number of things, a lot of life experiences that seem to keep happening all the time. Because I became a Christian when I was just around about the same time as my GCSEs, just before I took my GCSEs. And then, because before then I was more philosophical about life and stuff. But when I had my conversion experience, I became a bookworm for the first time. I actually read a book, and that was the Bible. So I read the Bible all the way through. I started to study the scriptures and also just like other commentaries about the scriptures. And then I started to write about my experiences and write about things that happened to me, write about things that I'd learned. So it was a whole new world that had opened up to me. And the frustration came as I studied. Many people would try and give me advice, which was good, but they were using the same map as me, like we had the same scriptures, but they were pointing me in a different direction. And I wasn't so much confused, I was frustrated, because it's hard to have people who are on the same journey telling me that I was heading in the wrong direction. And I thought there's a real danger that lots of new Christians could be led astray by well-meaning but perhaps ill-informed tour guides. So that was my motivation. It was frustration with ill-informed tour guides who were spouting off things that perhaps sounded good but were not based on true doctrine. And because when you have these conversations with people, and they're always really nice and amicable, but when you have them so many times and you go over the same subjects, I thought, well, it's like you're sketching out answers, and as you sketch out answers, they're not always the best looking drawings, and so you scrunch that up and you throw it away, and then you'll have another conversation with somebody else and you sketch out the same kind of thing. And I ended up just doing all these sketches all the time. So I figured it'd be better use of my time to write down and to get all the right colours and to start getting the right paintbrushes and the right kind of materials, and then to start painting a picture that was a much better thing than just a few sketches here and there. And I got loads of joy and satisfaction from choosing the colours and spending time over this thing. And the great thing about the end result is that once you've spent so much time and you've been a bit clearer, you can then give somebody that product and say, well, these are my thoughts and feelings, and this is the very best version of what I have to offer you. And not only is it a quick conversation that we're having that you'll throw away. So, yeah, it's something that people can refer back to, and they'll say, oh, yeah, I remember Clive, he told me about this. And they can look back on it. So that was my motivation. It was frustration and then the desire to paint a really good picture and to create something that would be lasting and memorable.
Thank you. There was a great explanation of a process, of a birth of this amazing book. And of course, when we create art, whatever kind of art that is, first we have this digging exercise inside ourselves. We are digging our souls, aren't we? And then we want to express our emotions, our feelings, in whatever capacity we can. So what is the purpose of your book, and how does that connect you with your readers, with your audience?
All right. I think the purpose of the book is to, like I was saying before, you get these different tour guides giving you advice and stuff. So I suppose the purpose of the book was to accompany a reader on their journey through life just for a short time, and then to point out as you're with them some of the landmarks that you can look out for, to make sure that when they're walking on life's journey, they've got a good reference point so they know where they're going, like a good tour guide, hopefully. So the purpose of the book is to walk with people for a little bit of time in their life and to help to guide them for the rest of the journey. Because it's possible, if you live in a tourist hotspot, and it's like I've got friends, I live in England, and I've got friends who come from different parts of the world, and they go and do all these tourist hotspots in England, or even Scotland and Wales and Ireland, and I haven't seen them. But yet they come all the way to see these hotspots. And I think that's the same with the scriptures as Christians. Sometimes we have all this amazing stuff at our fingertips through the scriptures, and we haven't got a good tour guide to get excited, to be enthusiastic, and to show them, hey, look at this and look at that, and this is a really cool thing that you can do in life. So hopefully the purpose of the book is to take people by the hand for a small portion of the journey, to get them inspired and excited about the landmarks within the scriptures and how they can apply to your life.
I just love your explanation. They're very visual, and I'm very visual myself, so I love to understand and make a picture in my mind. And so here is another question. I'm just firing question after question. So when you're ready, what was your creative process in writing this book?
Okay, that sounds like I had a plan. Well, I knew you were going to ask this question, so I've written a few things down that I thought would be kind of useful, but I have to start off by saying that initially, I managed to find a portion of time. It's not something that just happens. You've got to target some time. You've got to sit down and say, I'm going to do this then. And so I didn't have a laptop or a computer or anything special. I had a Bluetooth keyboard. It was an Apple keyboard, Bluetooth, Italian design. You'd like that? I'm sure you would, being Italian. But my phone was a Samsung, it was like a Note 8. So I would connect my phone up to the Bluetooth keyboard, and I just sat down and I started to type. I started to put all my thoughts down. And it wasn't particularly crafted well. It was just, I chose the time and I sat down and I did it. And then at the end of, say, an hour or 2 hours of doing that, I would then save my notes or save my Word document to an email. So then if I ever lost it, I can go back to it, a bit like using a primitive cloud system. And then I'd have a notepad next to me, and I'd set a file on my phone as well. So I had 2 places that I could write things down. So that if I had an idea in the middle of the night, and I would genuinely have ideas in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. is not a bad time, you could just reach across, type it into your phone, or if you're actually sat writing the book at a desk, you can write it in your notepad. So keep your notes organised would be perhaps a good piece of advice. So the process of writing the book and publishing it took me about 2 years, whereas my initial thought would be that, like you said earlier, it would only take a few months. But actually, it took a couple of years. So if you imagine grand designs, whenever you watch grand designs on TV, they say, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do it in this time, and we're going to set that budget. And like every good grand design, it just fell apart. So don't get disheartened if all your plans and things just fall apart, because they will. But I've got some steps that hopefully might help, and these are the things that I wrote down. So step number 1 is know your subject and keep learning whilst you're writing. Because I'd spent 25 years studying the gospel of Christ, and I'd given many talks on the subject of Christianity, but when I'd focused my energy on writing a book, I started to learn loads more than what I thought I needed to know. So after 25 years of studying grace, works, faith, I doubled that knowledge in the 2 years I spent writing the book. So know your subject, but also be prepared to learn more whilst you're writing. So I suppose be humble as you're writing the book. Don't think that you know everything, because you probably don't. So step 1 is know your subject and be humble. Step 2 is write a structure of how you think your chapters will pan out. I did this very early on when I got my keyboard and started typing away. And I was surprised that my structure, which I'd set out to build my book, remained largely unchanged all the way through. But, and this was my downfall, is ancillary stuff like the appendix or the supplements or the names that you give chapters, that all changed. But even though you give your book lots of different facelifts and alterations and things, the core message, you've got to remember to focus on your core message. And I might mention later that I did get distracted and I wasted a lot of time doing fluffy stuff that I really shouldn't have done. So, decide what you're passionate about and then write down a chapter structure that will accomplish your goals and don't get carried away. So that was step 2. Step 3 is that once you've poured your heart out and you've written everything down that you could possibly think of about writing on the subject, then just take a 2-week break. Do nothing. Think about something else. And when you come back after the 2 weeks, you've got to look at that block of words that you've written, and then you'll just see a solid block of words, like a block of marble. And then your job is to slowly start chipping away, chiseling away at that marble block of words so that you begin to sculpt it, like your pen becomes a chisel, and you start to reveal the book that you actually intended to write in the first place. And I've heard this a few times from different people as well. when they've written a book is that they wouldn't give the first draft to anybody. So, yeah, be prepared that once you've written all your words, come back after 2 weeks, and step 3 is just start chipping away. And that's where your book starts to take shape. You remove the words that you shouldn't have put there in the first place, and then you'll start to see the masterpiece, or hopefully the masterpiece that is inside. You need to set your book free from your own opinions so that what is left is really set in stone.
Thank you. It really felt really creative and also very organized eventually, right? So there was like a monumental amount of work. And I'm actually aware because I have written 3 books, one being nonfiction and 2 novels. So I know the headache. Oh my gosh, it's a lot of work. Quite tiring. So how did you feel when you finished your book?
That's a good question. In fact, the word finished is very subjective for me because I think it's fair to say that I finished it about 11 times. After one, I'm not kidding. So after 1 year, I'd finished it 4 times. I sent it to the publisher and I got it rejected. And then I totally thinned out the book because he said that I had a great message, but there was a lot of fluff. So I totally thinned out the book and I managed to maybe finish it for another 4 times over the next 6 months. But then I presented it to a friend who knows about these things, and I thought, hey, look, I've got my front cover done, I've got an ISBN, I'm all really excited, this is my finished book. And then my friend said, yeah, it's great, but it's not very entertaining, is it? It's very factual, but not entertaining. And I was really upset, so because I was sure that I'd finished it. However, I'm thankful that they told me this. So I went away and I spent another 6 months just polishing it off. And I added a new introductory parable that really glued the book together. And I was so pleased for the criticism that even though I thought it was finished, I ended up changing the name, changing the chapter headings, even though the structure stayed the same. This new glue that I discovered really pulled the book together. So even though it changed, like the title changed 4 times, the cover had gone through like 4 different types of different covers, it still retained its core message. So eventually when it was finished and proper finished, so I was able to send it off to be published, I finally felt that I could relax. It was like a really peaceful feeling because I knew that I could, with any book, with any project, you can keep tinkering with it and keep tinkering. But eventually I figured, right, I have done enough. And it wasn't a joyful feeling like, yippee, I didn't jump around. It was a peaceful feeling. I was like, I have done enough. And that was a great feeling. And then I sent it off.
Thank you. I really got into this process myself and understand what a sense of relief you have in the end. But yeah, some people will come back over and over. The book will never finish. Some paintings are never finished as well. People think, well, I'm going to add something else.
Yes.
So there was a great description of how you felt. But how about the people listening to us? Maybe those aspiring authors who are wondering, how does the process work? Could you maybe outline the process of preparing the book, writing it, checking it, getting the reviews, and getting into publishing, which eventually that's what we all want. Just take your time.
Alrighty. So writing the book, yeah, I've mentioned that there's a lot of studying as well as writing. You get to learn to type really fast if you can't type at the beginning. You type out thousands upon thousands of words. So you do a lot of writing, you do a lot of reflection, pondering. When everybody else is asleep, you're still pondering and thinking about what you've been doing. So, but once I'd like done that portion of the book where I'd written all the words and then I'd chiseled away and then eventually I'd added a load of polish, I then sent it to somebody to have it grammar checked. So you go online and you can get various people to grammar check things. Then it came back as not being quite good enough. So then I did all the work again. And then I sent off to get another fresh pair of eyes to grammar check it and also to proofread it. And then I'd asked 3 of my most trusted friends around me who were best qualified. in general life experience to do some proofreading for me and to have a look and to let me know their thoughts. And you've got to have a thick skin when you do that portion of preparing a book. You've got to be prepared to take criticism. Everybody I gave it to came back with genuinely something different that they had questions about or that wasn't quite clear. And I did get rid of some of the book based on that feedback. And some of the things you become passionate about, he's like, I really want to keep that. So there's certain things that you have to be strong. It's like, no, this is a pillar of the book. I need to keep this. And other things you have to be humble enough to say, okay, I'm going to get rid of that. So I'd say I accepted about 80% of all the feedback that I got, and 20% I stuck to my guns and just went with that. So it's interesting that, one grammar check is not good enough. One proofread is not good enough. Once you've written it all, you've chiseled it down, you've given it all the polish, give it away, it will come back, and then you have to work on it again. For all the proofreading, I went to Fiverr, Fiver, and you can get it, it's like for 70 quid, you can get somebody to check it, which is fine for a first go. But then when you get to the end of the book and you're pretty sure you're going to publish it, then go for somebody who is a member of a professional guild who really does know their stuff, who's in your own country, that you can get on the phone to, that you can communicate easily with. And that portion took about £300 to do that. In fact, they gave me a discount because they said it was well written. So they didn't have to do too much extra work, which was great news. I made my own front cover for the book that I was really pleased with, but when I showed it to somebody, they said it was rubbish. So I needed to get a professional to do that as well. So like, again, you can go on Fiverr, get somebody to do it for 70 quid, but it's really worth investing the time and the money. So it cost me about £400 to get a professional book cover done. I paid £200 up front after I'd made sure that they were responding to my emails and they were in my own country. They had a physical address I could go to if they ran away. So I did my research, and once they had finished the product and we were all happy with it, I then paid them the extra £200 to complete that. So, and the other thing that the book people will do is that once you've finished it all, you've then got to put it onto... I really should tell you this bit first. I'm getting ahead of myself. You've got to typeset it. It's like, I didn't think about any of this when I was first writing a book. I just thought you write it, send it off, and then it gets published. But you've then got to have it typesetted so that if you're going to have it printed, let's say on Amazon, it's got to look like a book. So when you open a book, you expect this certain type of cover. The way it's laid out, you just expect it. You've got all the blurb at the front about copyright and this, that, and the other. So I sent it to a typesetter, again, somebody in my home country that I could go and visit. And it went back and forward between me and them for quite some time, because once you've got it in the typeset, you then read through it and think, my goodness, I need to change this, I need to change that. But once all that was done, the book cover designer really helped me to get it onto Amazon or to format the trim size and make sure it was good, because you can do it on your own, but it's really helpful to have somebody who knows what they're doing. And then when all that process was finished, I then sent it off to Reader's Favourite. And this was the first time that I had sent my book to somebody to be really evaluated properly. It wasn't any friend or anything like that. And you could wait for ages, or you could pay to have it done quickly. So I paid for 3 evaluators. It cost me 50 quid. And I waited for about two weeks. And I was really excited when I got the feedback back. And they're my first proper reviews. And thankfully, they were all 3 5-star reviews. And that just brought me so much joy and happiness, knowing that somebody else actually really enjoyed the work. And all my time and effort was worthwhile. So there's lots of different stages, and there's probably a few others that I've missed out. But yeah, those are some of the basic processes that you go through when writing a book. And one of the funnest things was when once I got the book in typeset form, they sent it to me as a PDF and I printed it out, and you're holding it in your hands. And that is an amazing feeling, a really good, happy feeling.
I love to hear all the detailed description. There is so much work. I mean, sometimes people write, oh, I want to write a book. What should I write it on? And I think that's the wrong angle. You have to really have a message and really want to work to develop, to do the digging inside yourself. But really, in the end, there is so much stuff you want to talk about, but it has to be encapsulated in these 100 pages, 200 pages. It has to fit into paragraphs. The book has to fit into standard bookshelves, so you cannot make oversized books easily. There are so many constraints, and this will change the nature of your book. So it's important to think of what you can take away from a book. So here's my next question. You talked about chiseling, like you have a David or Michelangelo, was a big piece of stone that had to be carved. So what was the hardest thing that you had to let go of when you wrote this book and you prepared it for publication?
Easily the hardest thing to let go of was my supplements at the end of the book. I wrote 5 supplements, and I've only published one of them. And I wrote them because they're the kind of questions that Christians are asked a lot, and it's called Saved for Newborn Christians. And so when you become a new Christian, your friends are going to ask you lots of questions. What about evolution? What about this? What about that? And I'd learned so much and spend loads of time preparing all these supplements that weren't really my core message. And after I'd sent it off to my first publisher, and they said, you need to focus on a particular message and try not to get sidetracked, I did have to let go of them. And even interestingly, once I'd let go of them, I thought, oh, but what about this? And I started writing some more supplements. And that took, oh my goodness, it took loads of time. And then I was like, what am I thinking? So that had to go as well. But the good thing is, even though it's hard to let go of, I've used some of the omitted materials in my blogs on my website, and I've kept all the data, so it will be used in the future. It's not wasted time. And over the 2 years of writing and rewriting and re-editing, I perhaps wrote about 120,000 words, but only the best 30,000 went into the book. So I've got plans in my mind for a second book and a third book, as well as podcasts and blogs. So nothing will go to waste. It's all good character building stuff. But it was really hard not to put it in my first book. And one of the inspirations for this is that there was a lady who had written a bestseller. Forgive me, I can't remember who it was. It was about a year and a half ago, and they were interviewing her on radio. And she said that about 95% of her research that she had done was left on the cutting room floor. So in order for her to write that bestseller, she did tons of research, knew loads of stuff, but then she said it was really hard for her just to leave it out. But I think subconsciously it helps build the book. It really colors the book and gives it the right kind of shading and stuff. So it's definitely the right thing to do all this study, but you have to be prepared not to give it all out. The teacher, as they say, the teacher will always learn more than the student, and the same is true with writing. And when you've got light bulbs going off in your head all the time, it's like Christmas for you, but you can't give all these gifts out to everybody all the time. You've got to phase it in over time. You can't just give somebody like everything all at once. So my job as a writer is to filter the better stuff from the good stuff. And that's very hard when you've got lots of good stuff, many months of research that didn't make it into the book. They've made me into a better person, so nothing is wasted.
I love these detailed explanations, because when you're writing a book, you have thousands of questions. And now the easy question for you, Clive. You're going to love this question, because it's what was the best part of writing this book? We talked about the work, but there must be a good part. What is it?
So if you're talking about the best part about writing the book, if you imagine a jigsaw, when you're doing a jigsaw puzzle, you've got all these little pieces, and every time that you find a place for that piece to go, that gives you a little bit of joy. And then you find the next piece, you get a bit more joy. And I think if you were to add up all the joy that you feel from putting all these jigsaw pieces together, then that joy that adds up is more than looking at the finished product. I think the finished product, you get peace, but I think the joy comes in the journey, in the building of it. And it's quite funny because when the book first came through the post and I opened the package for the first time to see my book, my daughter filmed me. And I opened it up and I was like, oh, and here it is. And my daughter was like, Dad, you're supposed to be jumping up and down with joy. I was like, that process of receiving the book through the post was just another one of those little jigsaw pieces that was coming together. I thought about it so much, I'd envisioned it so much, but it was just one more step. The true joy is in the journey. It's building it that brings you happiness.
That's a great comment. I love that because also when you're painting, when you're making a movie, it's just the journey. It's just so good, even if in the end, maybe it will never be finished for you, but just making it, it's just doing something great with it. And I'm really sure that while you were doing this very long process, you were going very deep into your soul and you were acquiring knowledge and feeling good. And let's talk about this feeling. How do you hope that your readers will feel when they read your book? And remind me also of the title of the book because we really haven't said it properly.
All right, the title is Saved for Newborn Christians, Part 1, Harnessing Grace, Works and Faith. And like I say, it's Part 1. I didn't intend it to be Part 1, but I realize there's so much that I want to go through, and there's so many different aspects, like different types of aspects, that I thought I'm going to compartmentalize the book. So it's Saved for Newborn Christians, and then Part 1 is Harnessing Grace, Works and Faith. And the reason for the harnessing word is you'll see from the opening parable, it's talking about a climber, and you'll see that on the front cover of the book if you ever look at that. Okay, so that was the naming of the book and the reason why I named it that in Part 1 and things. But what I hope readers will feel when they read the book is the peaceful feelings. I don't know if, well, you probably have, lots of people have done this, where you just lay on a beach and you've got nothing that's worrying you or troubling you. It's just a peaceful feeling. The sun is shining. It's like the other day I sat on a sun lounger in the back garden and the sun was so warm. I hadn't felt the feeling of warmth and bright light for such a long time in the UK. And it was a fabulous feeling. And I hope that the readers, when they read the book, will experience the same feeling of warmth and of light as they read each chapter. Because you can experience the sun in England on most days at some point during the day, but it's not often that you can get a suntan. And I hope that when people read the book, they feel like they're getting a spiritual suntan and become more spiritually healthy by soaking up the vitamin D or the doctrine for the soul. So I hope they feel the light and it changes people's outlook on life for the better. I hope they feel the light.
Thank you. I like this concept of a vitamin D. So your book is really shedding light on a rather controversial subject, are we saved or not? And it does connect you to a very wide readership, doesn't it? So we know that art in general, and so literature, can be liked or can be disliked depending on who is viewing it, the background, the mindset. And your book can be also appreciated or not, depending on the reader. So, Clive, how will you cope with the feeling of rejection if some of your readers will be critical of your book?
Well, I've got the advantage. Perhaps not everybody would have this advantage when they're writing a book, but it was born from frustration. So if people disagree with some of the things that I've written in the book, hopefully they won't. But if they do, it would be just the same as when I used to have these sketchy conversations I was talking about earlier, where you sketch out various things And the usual result is that when you sit down with people and you discuss these things in a good, friendly manner, then usually you walk away still as friends and still happy that you've had the conversation and both feeling uplifted at the same time. And I really hope that the book can do that, where it could bring unity and it can bring cohesion rather than bringing division. But I understand that if you read the book with the wrong mindset, just like when I had these original conversations with many people in the past, if you're coming at it from maybe an antagonistic viewpoint, then you might walk away with an antagonistic viewpoint as well. It's only if you come to it with a good, humble spirit and you want to try and learn and soak up the light, then hopefully you can see the good in it. But I'm certainly prepared that there will be some who choose not to see it that way, and they may walk away. And but I'm prepared for that. But thank you for asking. It's a good point.
You're welcome. It's good to hear that you are prepared for possible rejection, as all artists are. Some people do not like all the artists, all the music, all the movies. There is always somebody that has to say, I don't like that. And that's fine. That's the whole thing about art. Is very personal. We make decisions on what we understand, what we like. We can change our mind as well on what we like. In 20 years, in 10 years, people change. And that's amazing. So I think that your message is going to be a great one. It's going to reach a lot of people. And a lot of people who are listening to us might want to give a wonderful message to others through their art, through their writing. They might want to write a real book, a proper 200 pages book. And they're thinking, wow, how can I do this? So maybe there are authors who can illustrate. They want an illustrated book, maybe for children. So there has to be some tip you want to give them just before we close. What would you want to make sure that people do when they're planning to write a book?
Yeah. Like you say about a book for children, I think sometimes even though a book for children has only got maybe, it could have like 50 words in it, if you're illustrating that and you're thinking about how the pictures should go and how the words should be and trying to form the best words for children, that could take weeks and months. You could easily spend a year writing a book for a child. And especially, like you say, trying to illustrate it, that's not something that I did. But in my research, there was various people that you could contact where they say, we're quite happy to do pictures for you, to do illustrations for your book. I think, from what I understand, you've done some illustrations as well. So I'll probably have to contact somebody like you who knows about illustrations and have to sublet that to somebody else. Just don't even try it myself. You have to, if you're going to do something professional, then if you don't know enough about the subject, you have to be willing to give somebody a design brief and then let that go. And interestingly, when I was looking at making a logo for myself, or when I was looking at doing the book cover, a lot of the people who do logos or book covers, they also do illustrations. So somebody might not just focus on illustrating books. They might have a whole plethora of different things that they do. And you can quite easily find them on the internet. But like I say, go and look for somebody who is local to your country that you can go and visit, that you've got their address, that you can call them up, that kind of thing. So you can have a good working relationship with them. But as far as my top 3 tips for my kind of writing a book, and I suppose it's true for if you're writing a fiction book as well as a non-fiction, and it's a bit of a summary, I suppose, of what we've said. But number 1, be passionate about your subject. I would have definitely given up after thinking it would take me 6 months and realizing that at the 6-month point, I was just nowhere near being ready. So you have to be passionate about what you're doing because you will have many setbacks. It's okay to have a rest, but don't give up and walk away. The second thing would be don't skimp on your research because that's the lifeblood of the book, really. You've got to be obsessive, become a little bit too obsessive if you want, just like know everything about your subject. So don't skimp on your research. The third thought is that you've got to invest in your proofreaders and your grammar checkers. and giving it to your friends, because once you've finished the book, I think I mentioned this before, once you've finished it and you're 100% sure that you finished it, that's a great starting point. And just be prepared for that, because when you've given it then to the grammar checkers and to the proofreaders, you've then got to start chiseling away at this block of words until you're left with the final book that could be a long time away. So you've got to make sure that your book sings, and it can't sing if it's drowning in words. So those are the three things. Be passionate about it. Don't skimp on your research. And then when you think you've finished, that's a great starting point. Start refining it and polishing it. And then eventually you'll be really satisfied with the finished result. But it's definitely worth the effort that you put in. And it's probably going to take you 4 times as long as you think.
That was great. Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know how busy you are, Clive, and it's a really, really busy day for you as well. And it's great to hear all the steps, because sometimes in website there isn't just enough, or maybe there is too much information. Well, this is a really good short guide on how to do it, and really with the right attitude. You want to gift somebody with all these really years of research and then months and months of really specific work to find out answers to your many questions. And I'm sure that your readers will really appreciate reading the book and your findings and maybe discussing them with you. So that leads me to another question. Where can we find your book? Is there a website where we can interact with you? How do we find you?
That's a good question. And actually that took a lot of thinking as well, because you can quite easily say, oh, I'll just make a website. And I thought that would be easy too, but it's not. So yeah, certainly at the moment the book is available exclusively on Amazon. If you go to Amazon and type in Clive Twain, then you'll see a book come up, and it's like a yellowy orange cover with a climber on the front, with actually an abseiler. But so that's quite easy to see. So Amazon, you can find it under Clive Twain. The other way is through the website, and I tried to build it myself, and I ended up going through GoDaddy, and they're a really good service provider. And even though I tried a few other people, GoDaddy really helped me. There's always somebody at the end of the phone. And even though I built the website, it was mostly their templates that I used. And it's just a godsend to me, is GoDaddy. So that was really useful. The website is www.savedbooks.co.uk. But what you'll find when you build your own websites for your own books or your own art stuff is you'll be really excited that you've got your website, your URL, and then you'll type it into Google and nothing will come up. You're like, what? And it's so frustrating. But in order to get search engine optimization, you've got to really focus on attention to details on the words that you use. But you also then have to give it time. So if you were to type in savedbooks.co.uk, it might come up with all sorts of different things, but it won't come up with my website. So to start with, because it's new, you have to type in www.savedbooks.co.uk. But the more people are looking for it, the more Google will put it to the top. And then you'll realize that it's not getting drowned out by all the other bits of research. But yeah, the website was a frustrating thing. So be prepared to be upset with your website. But if people have got other questions about the process of writing a book, or even questions about my book, if you send an email to clive@savedbooks.co.uk, and I'll do my best to answer any additional questions, because there's loads of steps in writing a book, and of course we can't cover everything in one sitting.
Thank you. I really appreciate the time you took to explain where exactly we can find you and just how complicated it is to work on your website just like that. It is good in the end to, when you see this is going well, just delegate and give a lot of projects and things to do to web designers and artists and whatever, but it's good in the beginning to just throw yourself into it, make an amazing creation that comes, one day it was all in your mind, it was in your gray cells, and now it's out, it's printed, you can touch it, you can hold it, and people in China can read it, in Australia, anyone can have it printed and read it. Isn't that amazing? The blessings of technology, right? So I'm really thankful for the time that we have spent together talking about this amazing book called Saved from Clive Twain. And I hope that my readers will be interested in having a look. Go and pop in into his website, say hello, make him feel welcome. That's his first book and the first of a trilogy. Maybe more stuff will come out, which is going to be exciting to see. So thank you so much for your time. And I hope to see you again, maybe in a future episode, to tell us more about book publishing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Franz. It's great to talk to you today. Thanks for having me on the show.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone, and thank you so much for listening to Create, the podcast that is all about art.